Hey guys, quick little 288 update. I'm kind of disappointed. I thought I was going to be able to get the case halves together tonight, but the gasket set I ordered was just complete garbage. The crankcase gasket just kind of fell apart when I got it out of the package. Whatever, it is what it is. I've got one, a highway one on the way. I'd ordered extra because I've got another set of cases and another crank here I was just going to go ahead and put together, but I guess we'll be ordering another crankcase gasket eventually. But well, that said, I've got the crank bearing in one side, and I don't know if you guys have seen me do this. I do it a little different if the bearings are already in the cases. Just heat all of that up in the oven, freeze the crank, it'll drop in. It's a little lengthier here. What we do is and there's no right or wrong way to do this. I know a lot of people like to pull them in. I've pulled them in myself. There's other ways I've even done it that we may or may not get into that may confuse the hell out of people, but there's a lot more ways to do this than you'd ever imagine. But what we do in this situation, when I've got the bearings pressed out of the cases, and these cases had some pitting in them, but it's not anything that's going to hurt it. Just where it's set with moisture in the bottom end or something, I guess. I don't know, but this saw was seized. The other one that I have, the crank's still seized up in it, and it's going to be really fun to get apart. But with that said, what I'll do is I'll freeze the crank, heat the bearings, they drop right on just like you would do a clamshell. Throw that assembly in the freezer for a little bit. Case half in the oven, about 300 degrees, about 20 minutes. Usually they'll just drop right in. Set that whole assembly back in the freezer. It usually doesn't take long to chill it back. The other half in the oven, you know, heat it up, and you know, usually it'll drop right on. But what I like to do before I put this in the freezer is just put a thin film of glue on and drop my gasket down on there. That way when, you know, we get our other case half heated up, all just drops right together. But one of you guys said you'd like to see me paint a saw. It ain't going to be on this one. Everything cleaned up too good. What we ended up doing was just using the handle that had the AV buffers in it. I got this trigger, its trigger spring was broke. I just took it off the other handle that had the broke trigger and pulled the interlock out of the other handle. So now we have a nice, about near perfect handle. It ain't as shiny as a new one, but again, it cleaned up really well. Top plastic, it's still a little wet. Cleaned up pretty decent. Starter cover, again, cleaned up pretty decent. They can still be cleaned on a little more. I ain't even tried to polish on them with anything yet, but we ain't gonna paint this one because, to be honest with you, all the cases and the plastic and everything's gonna match. But the cylinder, like I said, this thing was seized. I never got it apart. The piston was destroyed. There's a little bit of damage to the exhaust port. It ain't anything that is really going to hurt it, I don't think, but we're going to have to address that. The diamond burr cartridge roll before we ever even pull timing on it, and it has a really fine scratch, or you never see it, but kind of in the, it's just right to the right of the, would it be to the left of the exhaust port looking at it this way. But I'm going to try to just take some sandpaper on the flap wheel and see if we can polish that back out. And, you know, before we put the new piston and rings in, we'll hone it anyway. But this cylinder, you know, may not be as great as I thought it was. Dropping it in the floor is really not that great. Fell completely under the seat. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay, but again, who knows. Hopefully the squish and the timing falls, you know, in the same area that the last two we done, but you know, they had OEM pistons, so who knows. Be really good if it was too tight and we had to cut a little out of the band, but that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, just a quick little update on this. maybe, hopefully, the gasket set I ordered may show up here tomorrow or sometime, and we can get this bottom end together and the handle on it. I did put a new piece of tie gun in the tank as well as a new strainer, so won't be too long before we have this thing up and running. I've still got to do something with the chain brake cover. It's actually out in the shed in another big box of parts, so yeah, I'll have to get that and do something with it. We will have to paint that. I'll probably just rattle can it, to be honest with you. See if we can get this junk pile saw going. You guys have a good one.